See, this shows I am not a first-time speaker. Yeah, so this is the last talk, guys. Can't help it. I have to give the talk. I wish I was more excited. I wish you were more excited. I wish people were there, but yeah, it's okay. I mean, thank you. Thank you. So, because I knew this is going to be the last talk, I have kept it really, really light. So, that's it. Like, don't sleep. And if you're sleeping, raise your hand. I'll come slap you and it will be over. I'm not going to do that. COC. Sorry. Okay. How is this working? Not working. What's wrong today? It's not working, guys. I need something. No. See? Try next. No. Not gonna work. Okay. The classic trial of rebooting everything. You're trying plugging it out, plugging it in. Let's see. No, so I have to do this. Okay, so now I am bound to the podium. When I have a photo-worthy moment, I'll come and stand there so that you can click and tweet. Are you going to try something? You know this, this, I don't know whether I should talk about something or not, no? Continue, shift, skip, Japanese. We are installing, or at least you are not saying this, thank you. Now? No. Okay. Which is the next one? This is next. This is back. Okay. Yeah, so no need to like look for the slides. I'll tweet it. Because I was editing it till the last minute. Hey, can you reset my timer? I lost 3 minutes because of the technical difficulties. Come on. It's not fair. Yeah. So it will be tweeted on at Tanay Pratap. This is a product placement so that you guys go and follow me, because what is the point of doing this talk otherwise? So DIY in GraphQL plus React. When you're writing GraphQL, the problem is you write a lot of code. I want you to write less code. But before we get into that, let's know me a little bit. I work for this company. You might have heard of it. We do operating system called Windows, but our current claim to fame is Visual Studio and TypeScript, so you all are welcome for that. And here I have worked for Microsoft Teams, and now I'm working with Microsoft Outlook, so that's it. I am also a teacher, as my intro was, I mean, if you would have heard, and I teach coding for free. And that's what there is, the domain name learncodingfree.org. Around 40,000 students are there who are learning through this portal. And I'm quite proud of that. I am missing my family right now because I got a really great news after the lunch today. And I thought, why not share it with this family here? I wrote a research paper recently on effective online teaching. And it got selected in IEEE. And I just got the selection email today. I've been doing this for 5 years. I've been teaching online and offline for 5 years, and this feels good. So I thought, share it with you. Thank you so much. Let's move this forward. Yeah. Read the slide. It's because of this lady. She tweeted this, and I retweeted this, and 543 people said that some code, mostly concept. So I said, okay, no code then. And anyway, this is the last talk, so we'll dive into very basic thing like what Apollo is, what are middlewares, links, some of the use cases which we figured out while doing a app from taking an app from concept to production using Apollo and GraphQL. And I think these will be useful for anyone who is thinking of doing GraphQL. Ankit, you should listen. Yeah. Anybody who is going to do GraphQL, this would be useful. So around like October 2018, I got this project where I was asked to go and work in GraphQL React Apollo, and I had zero idea. And like I remember this very, very clearly that I was walking, this was Sunday, and I was so frustrated. I went to office on Sunday and I was walking in the hallway and I was thinking that what did I get myself into? Because when you start with GraphQL, you have no idea what it is. Sometimes you have, like, I can see why a lot of people are not here, because it's hard to understand and wrap your head around this when you're starting. And then there are a lot of problems around it. Let's see one. Again, it's not working. Come on. Okay, this has given up on me. No, this is also not working. Yeah, Apollo. Why Apollo? Because browser doesn't understand GraphQL. GraphQL was made on top of something, but definitely not what browser supports. And why browser doesn't understand? Because GraphQL says query, mutation, subscription. Browser says, I only understand get and post. How will that work out? Fetch won't work. You can't do a put request, a pull request, a post, a get, anything directly from GraphQL. And this is very important. The caching doesn't work with GraphQL. Because, and I'm sure you understand how caching works in browser. Browser caching is based on URL, and in GraphQL you have only one endpoint. You do not have different endpoints, so it doesn't work. So there are so many problems. But yeah, even error handling doesn't work in GraphQL. GraphQL spec defines error handling differently than how we are used to doing 401 or 500 or whatever the error you are trying to throw from backend. It comes back not as a HTTP error, it comes back as an error message inside GraphQL. So it was thought out really well, but it's not, like the browsers are not keeping up maybe. I don't know. So Apollo takes care of all of this. It does all of this for you. It has a wrapper on fetch. It does state management for you. It does client-side caching because the regular caching doesn't work. And it does error management as well. And if that was not enough, it has a normalized cache and client live. So it takes care of all of your state managements and the fetch requests and everything. So I understood this by November. I think it took me around 2 weeks to get my head around Apollo and GraphQL, and then we started building the app, and it's like the MVP was ready very soon. The question which comes to my mind is, if this was enough to make a React app with GraphQL, then why middlewares? Why this talk? The answer is, I work for this company who has this founder and whose this statement is very, very famous. You have seen this on internet, and if you are really successful in life, might not have seen it, but this is a good excuse for a lot of people there. And we were repeating code. And when you are writing software, or when you are writing a React app with GraphQL, you do repeat a lot of code when you're starting. What did we do? I will come back to use cases. First, let's understand what's middleware and links. What is this talk about? What is links in Apollo? Have you seen this game where a person says something and then it goes through multiple rounds, and the last person is just hearing something else? That's what basically middleware is, or it's the same concept in backend as well. You send a request or you get a response, and in between you can transform the request or response, how it's going and what's happening with it. Okay? A little bit of sidetrack. Let's understand what Apollo is for a second. Apollo is composable. What it means is you can use so we saw that Apollo had like client live and Apollo had state management and whatnot, but you can use Apollo only for GraphQL fetch request as well. Not only that, you can use this with REST as well, and this REST should be capital, but since I'm going with a theme here, so yeah. So you can have REST with GraphQL as well. You can have state management. You can ditch the state management. Okay, I swear this is not scripted. Someone is calling me. Sorry. Yeah. So you can use GraphQL, and all of this powers comes from Apollo links. What happens in you have different separate Apollo links which have separate functionalities. You have one Apollo link for REST APIs. You have one for state management. You have one for that HTTP link for the HTTP calls over GraphQL. All of this are there. I'm running good on time. And the question which comes to my mind or came to my mind was, when we are doing all of this, can we use it to our advantage? Like what Apollo is doing, can we do it ourselves as well? And the answer was yes. Let's see some of our use cases. I don't know how good this diagram will look here. This is how it works for us. We have a client state, and by the time there is a HTTP request going out, we do a lot of stuff in between, and we'll go through each of it. So we have like a link, like a train going on. This is the biggest Chinese whisper there is. First thing is global error handler. If you do Apollo, you will see that you have 3 states all the time. You have error, loading, and the data. And most of the time what happens is, for errors, the UI remains the same. You have the same SVG getting rendered with a different message most of the time. So why do that? What we started, is there an echo? No? Okay. Why do that? Instead of that, what we did was we took the error messages out in the build, and when there is an error, it returns a code, and that code has already a text in the client. So we just map it, and we don't have to handle errors on every query or every mutation. Saved us a lot of time, saved us a lot of code, and as well as it saved us a lot of tests. Then comes telemetry. This is very important for any app. You need to know what your user is doing, what requests are being made, and where it's going. In these cases, what we did was we just added some of this Apollo link magic, and every request which was going was having a unique request ID, and when it was coming back, we were seeing, okay, whether the request went properly or not. And that's how we manage telemetry without writing telemetry on each of our requests or on each of our scenarios. So it worked really well for us. Also, this was an app. If you know Microsoft Teams, it's a live app. It's a chat app. It needs a lot of state management from the server as well. And sometimes what happens is you just go offline. In those cases, instead of showing user that you are offline, we try again. We try once more. We have a back, what is that, back algorithm and back off algorithm, and then we give up after trying some more time without user consideration. Again, this all was done in one place, in one file, and it was being done for every HTTP request which was going, in every GraphQL request which was going, and basically DRY, we were not repeating ourselves. There's another thing, our subscription is not based on what Apollo suggests, that is sockets. Ours is long poll. You might have heard about it, but long poll scales really well for us. And the way we use long poll inside GraphQL is we parse the subscription query, and we said, hey, if you're looking for this, come, I'll give it to you. And we took data from the long poll and gave it to the subscription query. So it worked out really well for us there. In case you guys are noticing, I have my Twitter handle on top all the time. This laugh was just to tell me that you are listening still. Oh. Same with auth, you can always put the token from one middleware. I think this is what we use everywhere. Like you use Axios or anything, you use auth like this. But we just expanded it to some more use cases. We even had consistency management because this was a note-taking app, and it was a live note-taking app. Think of like Google Docs, but with less steroids. And since if someone edits it, you have to know that you are editing the content on top of it, and we used to take care of this using middleware as well. So if you write all of these middlewares, the developer, he has to write a lot less code than he would have written. Like he doesn't need to take care of errors, he doesn't need to take care of retries. And even if there's a consistency failure, all we have to do is see which data persists on top. Like, can we have a resolution automatically before we show error to the user? This all had happened, but my knowledge or growth in GraphQL community and Apollo increased when I gave this talk in GraphQL Asia in April 2019. And after the talk, I learned few more tips, few more tricks, which I want to share with you here. One thing was AST. Rajat just talked about it. It's nothing, it's just a fancy word for saying that you can modify your file before giving it to the compiler the way you want to do it, or you can know what's there in a GraphQL query. And GraphQL is a language, so you have all the AST parsers inside the package, inside the Apollo package itself, because Apollo is using it anyway to parse that query and send it to a fetch request, right? So when you have that package, why not use it for yourself? This is from GraphQL Asia. This night I came from GraphQL Asia. I saw that everybody is doing AST, Gatsby, CodeGens, Hasura, etc. So I figured out this must be easy. I didn't know about AST by then. But if everyone is doing it, it must be easy. And I asked for a good tutorial, because Twitter is so helpful all the time. Vivek, are you here? No. But Vivek replied, he gave this talk to me. It's an awesome talk, by the way. And I learned about AST from this, and I used it in a lot of places. I'll come where I used it, okay? Same with observables. I did not understand observables. I've never used observables before. But the whole Apollo link chain is nothing but observables. So if you want to have more power into it, you need to understand the concepts. My answer to anything which I don't know is Twitter, tag few people, and Mr. Pai answered with a really good tutorial on how you could understand observables. How did it help? As I said, observables help you write better middlewares because you understand now the code flow better, and you can go into the implementations of what Apollo is doing, and you can try all sorts of things. With AST and observables, you have power to modify the request as you want to modify it. Yeah, afterware is nothing but it's a fancy way of saying Apollo, hey, do this when the request is not going, when it's coming back. So it's a response thing. Middleware is when it's going. That's it. As I said, the ability to interact with these is pretty powerful, and you should use this when you are doing GraphQL because it will save you a lot of time. AST helped me in doing schema stitching. This is very important because Apollo out of the box doesn't support it. If you have a client-side schema and if you have a server-side schema, you cannot stitch it using their client. So if you know how to parse the AST on the client before the build time, you can do all of this magic. Type generation is very much required because Microsoft and TypeScript. Thank you. If you want to parse a query, you want to get the query name for logging, or in the subscription case where you wanted to see whether the query which is coming is a subscription. We did all of this using ASTs. And I finished in 15 minutes. Thank you. Some closing notes. Two things. Yeah. We write code which is 100% type supported. Basically, we can do TypeScript on all of it. And 100% testable. All of this code which we wrote is very easy to test. And yeah, I mean, that worked out really well for us. All of this AST drama, all of this we can do with the type support. And second thing, this is very important, by the way. I like this talk really well. So a shout out to this talk again. When I started with GraphQL and Apollo in October, I had no idea about it, and now I have some idea about it. I'm working with the team and contributing to GraphQL, but it's not that easy. It's not as easy as it sounds. So when you're starting a project, it can be overwhelming. I have just two things to you. Take baby steps and feel free to ask for help. And namaste, you have been a great audience today. Let's go to the beach and enjoy. And even though it didn't reset the timer, I completed it. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Bye.
Recording was brought to you by Twilio. We allow you to integrate different means of communication such as video, chat, or SMS into your React applications. If you want to learn how you can send SMS directly from a React chat, check out this video on the right or go to our Twilio YouTube channel. And if you want to watch another React India talk, we picked one out just for you over here on the left. Thanks for watching!